This chapter is over an hour and 16 minutes long, but I do think it's interesting as speculation. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. I won't put a whole bunch of comments on it, but I will point out things that are similar so that maybe it might make some sense. But there won't be any other comments. Okay. Anyway, Kolbrin Bible, Book 5, Chapter 34. It seems to cover the whole 18th dynasty. And the 18th dynasty is classified as the first dynasty of the New Kingdom period. It boasts several of Egypt's most famous pharaohs, including Tutankhamun, the Thutmose dynasty for the 4 pharaohs named Thutmose. Its famous pharaohs of that dynasty include Hatshepsut, Akhenaten, his queen Nefertiti, and then there was King Nefertiti, which I assume they believe is the iconic Queen Nefertiti. MAN 3421. The House of the Hidden Places was established 50 generations before the reign of the Mighty One, who was Pharaoh, and in those days the High God was known to men and was revealed even after. But 20 generations before the evil Amalekah descended like locusts upon the land, there was strife most grievous. This is set forth in the scroll belonging to Kabet-Khat, son of Namrath, copied from an old writing, copied from another, which was the property of a temple in Penhumor. It says, "The twin powers drawn down, entwined about themselves, and grew ever stronger. Even as waters are dammed to be drawn upon, so was the united power built up into a reserve of force. A storehouse of strange energy was prepared. The thoughts of Setra ever turned about within himself, and behold, the day came when he believed the secret key to be his, the key that would open the inner chamber of sacred mysteries. Yet he made the mistake of all such men down through the ages, unaware that his very unworthiness forbade his admittance into the inner mysteries, that though he could deceive himself and others, he could not deceive the inner guardians. It is true that some who were admitted to the outer chamber were indiscreet and spoke carelessly before the ears of unadmitted men. It is ever thus when goodness is not persecuted, for goodness blooms best in the barren soil of intolerance and injustice. Anyway, in this manner, the seeds of strife and suffering were sown. Then Setra conceived a plan whereby the multitude would be admitted to participate in the sacred mysteries hitherto kept exclusive for the worthy ones among men. He gathered together a following of his own from among the people and promised in return for their devotion that the knowledge of sacred things hitherto kept from them should now become available. He called those who followed him the enlightened ones of the gods. Naturally, such folly could have but one outcome, for the experience of ages has shown that sacred things cannot be revealed to the profane. Not only would the things revealed be disdained by the ignorant as swine would trample pearls underfoot to gobble up a handful of filth, but the multitude in its sinfulness would destroy the delicate beauty of the hidden mysteries, like goats devouring hangings of artistically patterned loveliness. They would decide that the gross things to which they were accustomed were more satisfying. MAN 3422. The new teachings grew in strength and spread throughout the whole land. They went from city to city, gaining followers in every one. The multitude is ever powerful. Therefore, he who controls it by whatever means is himself powerful. Thus, it came about that eventually Setra was able to challenge the authority of the twice-born. This authority was always vulnerable, as it sought to rule by wisdom and goodness, rather than by power and subtlety. Only when wisdom and goodness rule the wise and good can such rule succeed. Such time may never come. MAN 3423. Though the followers of Setra could not discover the higher secrets, they learned the lower ones, and these were twisted to their own ends. Thus were developed the worship of dark spirits, a vile and poisonous thing that perverted the thoughts of the people and led them away from the path of spirituality. They strayed into all manner of strange and corrupting byways. Then their hearts hardened by earthly sordidness, they rose up, clamoring for the blood of the righteous ones. MAN 34:24. Now Setra gained the ear of the king, and pouring in a flood of venom wrapped up in fine speech, he overwhelmed the heart of his majesty. None in the land had a tongue more subtle than that of Setra. Then new shrines were set up in the temples. New forms of worship appeared, pandering to the weaknesses of men. The hidden places of the enlightened ones were profaned with wickedness, and the secret chambers of the twice-born were polluted with vile rites. Therefore the enlightened ones and the twice-born withdrew from the eyes and knowledge of men. Their day was yet to dawn, but none among them would ever have thought that never in Egypt would that day be. Yet dawn it will, even though it be in some strange land, where the ways of men are different, and in some manner inconceivable to men of our times. Will they be people such as we? O my land, having known you, how strange all others appear. Away from you I will be as a fish cast up onto dry land. MAN 34:25. In the temples dedicated to many different gods, the forms of worship were subtly changed. To serve another end, the servants of the Dark Ones were able to display wonders before the multitude. But these wonders were works of deceit. They revealed mysteries, but the mysteries were not the most sacred ones. These were never known by any likely to betray them. The thoughts of the people were poisoned. All manner of rites aimed at satisfying carnal cravings were introduced. Simple, satisfying answers were given to content the hearts of the people, and all manner of rewards were promised for payment made. Men were promised forgiveness of even the most grievous wickednesses. It is well that the ears of the dumb gods were unhearing, or they would have been deafened by the clamor of pleas for petty things. The servants of the Dark Ones left not even the dead to rest in peace, but sought to satisfy the living with words from beyond the tomb. Even the blood of men was offered in dark places, while in others of greater evil, men, yes, and even children, were tormented to give pleasure. Such is the nature of men when the scales weigh down against righteousness. MAN 34:26. The host of the Dark Ones were well skilled in battle, and they drove out all those who stood against them. The forces of righteousness were scattered. The sacred shrines which stood before the veil of truth were spoiled. The ornaments of beauty and the sacred vessels were taken away to be profaned by sin-soiled hands. The enlightened ones and the twice-born were hunted down like beasts of the chase. They were slain and buried in the ground like dogs. Their resting places remained unmarked and unattended. MAN 34:27. The leader of the light cried out, O great God, what can I do? How shall your servant be saved? What shall be done unto those who have profaned your sacred shrines? What can I do to turn back the rising waters of iniquity and temper the wild winds of wickedness? How can the black cloud of ignorance be lifted? What shall be the just reward of those who have slain the faithful? The voice coming forth by the Spirit of God said, Concern yourself not with those who have persecuted you. Leave them to follow the path of their own choice. Vengeance is with me. I will measure without stint. Justice never sleeps and never forgets. The reward of the wicked awaits them in the hall of no hiding place. Justice will speak the final word. MAN 34:28. The leader of light and those with him fled into the land beyond Shari and built there the temple in the rock, which stands against Sheena. In this land, the forces of the Dark Ones were cast back, yet still some among the faithful beseeched their God to save them. Thus it has ever been. This is the nature of man, that in his hour of distress he cries out to God in bitterness of heart. And they who deserted God in better times expect him to turn towards them. Yet such is the nature of God, that this he would do, were it to the good of men, which it is but rarely. In the land of Egypt, the great shrines were deserted by the enlightened ones and abandoned by truth. They became places of darkness. They were as lamps without flame, as fields without crops, as wells without water.